The story happened just last week, and it's still fresh in my mind. My family and I had decided to stop at Culver's for lunch. It was around noon when we pulled into the parking lot of a newer Culver's. In our town, we parked and got out of the car and began walking into the restaurant. As we're walking in, I noticed a strange guy sitting in a black Chevy pickup with the driver's door open. He looked to be in his 30s, and he was smoking a cigarette and seemingly watching everything and everyone around him very carefully. I didn't think much of it since our town has a lot of weirdos in it. And we just went inside. We were sitting at a table near the window, and I could see the guy's trunk a few feet spaced away, and he was still sitting there smoking a cigarette. I thought it was weird. He wasn't getting any food or anything, but I figured maybe he was waiting for a DoorDash order or something. It took a while to get our food, but eventually we got it. We had been there so long at this point that the employees were doing shift change. All of a sudden I hear 3 loud pops and look out the window to see a female employee drop to the ground, blood getting all over the concrete, and the man closing the door in his truck and peeling out of the parking lot. My parents and I were in shock, and everything was just a blur after that. But basically the police showed up and shut down the restaurant, and we had to leave. Later on the news, we learned that the man was the woman's ex-boyfriend, who she had just broken up with, and he had decided to end her life because of it, and waited for her outside of her work. And little did she know, at the end of her shift, she'd been walking right into her fate. The man was arrested and charged with murder, public endangerment, and discharging a firearm in a public space, and he was given 190 years in prison. The image of that woman laying in a pool of blood is still burning in my mind forever. And I'm never going back to that Culver's again. My name is Stephanie, and this all happened when I was 17 years old. A few years ago, I got my first job the summer before my senior year. In June of 2022, Burger King wasn't exactly my dream, but it paid better than babysitting and didn't involve cleaning strangers' houses like my mom's job. I wanted to help her out with the bills and save up for a beat-up Honda Civic that I saw parked at a neighbor's house with a for sale sign in the window. It was $2,000. I figured I could make that by the fall. If I picked up enough hours, I was hired 2 days after I filled out the online application. My uniform was a little too big, and the visor made me look like a dork, but I didn't care. There was something exciting about clocking in, putting on a headset, and pretending that I was part of something real. I made burgers, bagged fries, and restocked napkins. I learned to refill the soda machine without making a mess. I liked the buzz of the drive-thru during dinner rush, and the way that my manager Tanya called me kiddo when I got things right. For a little while, things felt normal. Then he started coming in. The first time I noticed him was on a Tuesday night, I remember, because my feet were killing me, and I was counting down the minutes until close. He came in just after the dinner rush around 6:45 p.m. He looked out of place, older than most of our customers, maybe late 40s, with graying hair and skin that looked like it hadn't seen a moisturizer in a decade. His eyes didn't move the way most people's did. They stayed fixed on me for way too long. He walked up to my register, ordered a Whopper with cheese and a medium fry. When I asked if he wanted a drink, he didn't answer me right away. Instead, he smiled in this way that made my stomach just twist. "You're new here," he said. "Yep, it's my first month." "You've got a nice face," he said. I bet you hear that a lot. I didn't know what to say. I just handed him his receipt and told him that his food would be right out. He sat down at the table closest to the counter, eating slowly, watching me between bites. I told Tanya all about it after my shift. "Oh, he's just lonely," she said with a sigh. "We get a lot of regulars like that. Don't let it bother you." I wanted to believe her, but then he came in again the very next night, And the night after that, too, every single night. Always during my shift, always my line. He never changed his order. A Whopper with cheese, medium fry, and no drink. But he'd started adding little comments every time. Love that braid you're wearing tonight. You look tired, sweetheart. Long day. I can take you somewhere nice if you ever wanted a break from this place. It wasn't just the words. It was the way he looked at me like he was measuring something. I tried to keep it professional. Short responses, eyes on the register, but it started to get harder to smile. Even when I wasn't working the counter, I'd feel a stare from across the dining room. I started dreading my shifts. One of my co-workers, Eli, noticed something was off too. "You good?" he asked me one night while restocking the sauce packets. "That guy gives me bad vibes." I nodded. "Has been here every night, always talking to me." "Well, did you tell Tanya?" Eli asked. "She thinks he's harmless." Eli frowned. "I don't like it." Neither did I, but I didn't want to make drama over a creepy customer. I mean, what if I really was just overreacting? Then came the night everything changed. It was a Thursday night just after 11 p.m. Tanya was finishing the register count, and I was taking out the trash before clocking out. I remember checking my phone 11:22 p.m., and I had texted my mom that I'd be home soon. I walked out the back door into the alley behind the building, headed toward the parking lot. It was quiet. Too quiet. That's when I saw him. He was leaning against the wall near the edge of the dumpster, half in shadow, smoking a cigarette. "Hey there," he said. I froze. I hadn't seen him in the restaurant that night. "I thought you'd come out sooner," he added. "I waited here for a while." My heart dropped into my stomach. "What do you want?" He took a step forward, flicking the cigarette away. "I just wanted to talk. You're always so busy inside." I tried to move past him, but he had stepped in front of me. "Look, I like you. Okay, I think we'd get along. You seem smart kind. I can take you out sometime. Maybe show you something better than this greasy place." "No," I said, my voice trembling. "You need to leave. I'm not trying to scare you," he said quickly. Tanya," I screamed. The back door slammed open. Tanya appeared in her work polo, eyes scanning the alley. "Steph, what's going on out here?" The man's eyes went wide. He bolted, running into the darkness behind the building, before Tanya could catch more than a glimpse of his outline. I couldn't stop shaking. Tanya walked me to my car and stayed with me until I calmed down enough to drive. We called the police, filed a report, even showed them security footage, but nothing ever came of it. He never came back after that, though I think he got scared. But sometimes when I'm alone in a parking lot or walking home after dark, I wonder if he just found someone else, someone who didn't scream in time. If you take anything from my story, let it be this. Whether you're working fast food retail or anywhere that put you in contact with strangers, trust your instincts. Creeps don't always look like villains. They don't always break laws. Sometimes they wait. They watch. They wear you down until they think they can cross the line. It doesn't matter if they're a customer. It doesn't matter if no one else believes you. You don't owe anyone your silence, your smile, or your time. Speak up. Make noise. Ask for help. Because the truth is, danger doesn't always kick the door down. Sometimes it walks in, orders a burger, and stares at you from across the counter. And you have every right to walk away, every right to be safe, and every right to say no. Music. I never really had to work, not in the way most people do anyway. I come from a pretty well-off family, the kind where birthdays meant weekend trips instead of presents. And if I ever needed money for books or clothes or rent, my parents would just VMO it over before I even finished asking. And I don't say that to brag. Honestly, it's always made me feel weird, like I was watching life from behind glass, while everyone else was out there living it. So at 20, halfway through college, and smack in the middle of a pretty cushy existence, I decided to do something completely out of character. I got a job at Taco Bell. It wasn't for the money. God knows, I didn't need the $10. Something an hour they were offering. I think I just wanted to feel something different. Something normal. Something real. Maybe I was bored. Maybe I wanted to prove that I wasn't as soft as I secretly worried I was. Whatever the reason, I filled out the application during a break between classes, and I didn't think twice about it. And to my surprise, I got hired. No interview, no questions beyond. Can you work weekends just like that? I had a purple visor and my name written in Sharpie on a piece of masking tape. It was my first job ever. The rush. The first few shifts were almost fun. There's a rhythm to fast food. The strange choreography of beeping fryers' shouted orders. Hands moving fast, but knowing exactly what they're doing. My coworkers were a mixed bunch. College kids like me, single moms, one guy out on parole who made the best burritos I've ever seen. They were all kind, sharp in unexpected ways, and weirdly funny. They didn't treat me any differently, even though I knew I stuck out. My hands were soft. I flinched in grease pops. I said please and thank you way too much, but no one ever said anything. They just showed me how to do things, how to reset the register whenever it froze, how to fold a crunch wrap without it falling apart, how to keep your cool when someone threw a drink at the drive-thru window because we were out of Baja Blast. And I would say that I did okay, better than I thought I would. I started to look forward to the shifts, especially at night when the store got quiet, and we were all just killing time until close, laughing over broken headset mics or sneaking extra cinnamon twists. It felt like I was part of something. Then that night happened, and everything changed. The truck. It was a Friday, one of those strange in-between nights where the rush dies early, but the store stays open late 11:03 p.m. I remember, because I just checked the wall clock, wondering how much longer I had to stay. We were on cleanup duty. I was in the back, stacking up the trash bags for the usual trip out to the dumpster. That's when I noticed the truck, an old white pickup, beat to hell. Rust eating the lower panels dug tape over one of the tail lights. It had been parked there for a while near the very back of the lot, right at the edge, where the lights didn't quite reach. I thought it was weird, but it is a Taco Bell. Weird as standard. Maybe it belonged to a customer from earlier who left it overnight. Maybe someone was sleeping in it. We got that sometimes. People who just needed a place to rest, scroll on their phones, or leech off the free Wi-Fi. Still though, something about this truck. It unsettled me. It was too still, like it had been waiting. I shook it off. I tied up the bags, grabbed two, one in each hand, pushed open the back door into the night. Outside it was quiet. No stars, just low clouds smothering the sky. The parking lot lights buzzed overhead, flickering slightly. The wind carried the faint smell of fries, bleach, and wet asphalt. The truck said maybe 20 feet away. Half in shadow, I didn't look at it. Well, not really. I kept my eyes forward, focused on the dumpster. Then I opened the lid. The finger, I threw the first bag in and it landed with a wet smack. The second bag snagged onto something. Maybe a box, maybe metal. So I leaned in to shift it. That's when I saw it. Near the corner, half hidden by a flattened soda box, there was a finger. At first, of course, I thought it was a prank. A fake Halloween prop someone tossed in for a laugh. But then I saw the dirt under the chipped nail, the dried blood crusted on the knuckle, the pale, soft look of the real skin. It was real. I froze. Everything in me just stopped. My stomach dropped, and I couldn't hear my own breath. Too loud, too fast. I couldn't think. I couldn't even feel anything. I was just staring at it. Then I turned and ran, bursting through the door, shouting for my manager and tripping over a mop bucket. At first she laughed, thought I was messing with her. I then insisted, borderline hysterical. She came with me reluctantly. The moment she saw it, her whole face changed like someone turned out the lights behind her eyes. She didn't say anything, just backed away, locked the door, and called 911. The aftermath, the cops arrived pretty fast. Blue and red lights lit up the parking lot, bouncing off the wet pavement. They roped off the back area with yellow tape. Flashlights scanned the dumpster. The truck, which by then was gone, vanished. I hadn't heard it leave. None of us had. I gave my statement. So did my manager. The rest of the crew stood in the back room, quiet and confused. No one had seen anything unusual. No one had even noticed the truck arrive or drive away. It was like it had been there just long enough. Days passed. Eventually we heard back. The finger had belonged to a missing woman. She was homeless. I'm not going to share her real identity, just for anonymity's sake. She was in her early 40s. From what I heard, she at one point had a really great life. But like many, she went down the path of drugs, and I guess too many mistakes caught up to her. The rest of her was found dumped in a lake 40 miles north. No arrests, no suspects, nothing else. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. The weight. I kept working there for a few more months, pretended everything was fine, smiled through orders, cracked jokes, stayed late when someone needed help. But I felt different, like a thin crack had formed somewhere deep inside of me, and no one else could see it. Every time I took out the trash, I felt like someone was watching, like the shadows were holding their breath. I started dreaming about it. Not the finger, exactly, but the dumpster. Always the dumpster and the dreams. It was way deeper than it should be. Endless. Something waiting at the bottom, breathing. Eventually I quit. Told everyone I needed to focus on school. Exams were coming up, but that really wasn't the truth. The truth is, I just couldn't stop thinking about that woman, about how close I had come to something that I didn't understand. Something I still don't. I wonder if I'd looked earlier, if I'd said something about the truck sooner, if anything would have changed. I'll never know. Here's what I learned. People say the world is small, that we're all connected. But I think what they mean is danger doesn't feel distant when it's real. It can be as close as a dumpster behind your work, as near as the shadows beyond a parking lot light. I never expected to find anything out there. Certainly,